Do you hit publish on a blog post and then remember something you were supposed to do before you clicked? Do you do this more than once on each post? I do. If so, this week's episode of the Blogcentric podcast is for you. Welcome to Spiderworking's Blogcentric podcast, a podcast about blogging. Hello and welcome to episode 57 of the Blogcentric podcast. I'm Amanda Webb and you'll find the show notes for today's show at spiderworking.com/57. And there's a ton of links this week, so do go and check those out. And there's also something special for you there. You'll find out about that in a minute. I don't know about you, but I always forget to do something before I hit publish on a blog post. In fact, as soon as I hit that button, I remember that, oh yes, I was supposed to post that into the podcast category, because if I don't post it into the podcast category, iTunes won't find it. Or, I didn't add a Pinterest image. In fact, every single time I publish a blog post, there's more than one thing I seem to forget. Now, I'm quite forgetful in general. So over the last year, I've become far more organised. I've started putting some systems in place that help me minimise mistakes, help me stop having to do things over and over again to get it right. So today's podcast includes a little Christmas gift for you. It's a checklist. You can download it, you can print it out, you'll get it at the show notes, spiderworking.com/57. And this will help you make sure that you've covered all the bases before you hit that publish button. In today's show, I'm going to talk you through the things that you need to think about before you hit the publish button. All the things that are on that checklist. You're listening to Blogcentric from Spiderworking. In an ideal world, you'll have written your post at least one day before it's due to be published. This gives you enough buffer room to look back, edit, ensure everything's optimized. In fact, sometimes you'll want to rewrite it when you look at it the next day. The checklist is going to work best for you if you do look at your post the day before. But even if you've just written a post, if you've written it quickly, you're itching to hit that publish button. Take 10 minutes out to go through the list and make sure you've covered everything. There's 7 sections to the checklist. I'm going to go through them with you now. The first section is topic. When you write a blog post, you should have a strong idea of what you want readers to gain by reading it. And write this down. Write it down somewhere. And once you've finished the post, go back, read it. Does that actually stand out? Will people know what it is that you want them to do? What it is that you want them to learn from the post? Is your one thing shining through? And then there's keyword research. And this, as you know, is something I am sometimes quite lazy about. But it's so important if you want to rank on Google and other search engines. So spend some time doing some keyword research. Actually, I find it helpful to do it in a big batch. And choose a keyword for your post. Write it down because we're going to come back to that a little later on. Number 2 is your title. Did you write your title in a hurry? If so, I recommend that you go and check it out with the Emotional Value Headline Checker. I'm going to leave a link to that in the show notes. This tool assesses how emotionally charged your title is. Ideally, you're looking for a score of 30 in the headline checker. If you find that your headline is nowhere near 30, you're going to need to rewrite it, and keep rewriting it until you get above 30. You'll get far more click-throughs if you do. Is your title under 60 characters long? This is an interesting one because Google measures the amount of your title that it displays in its search results in pixels. So that's an actual dimension of space, not how many characters you've got there. This is going to equate approximately to 60 characters. It could be slightly more, it could be slightly less, depending on the letters you're using and how many capital letters, etc. So go for 60 characters or less. This, of course, like Twitter, includes your spaces and your punctuation. Number 3 is your keywords. Are your keywords included in the title of your post, your opening paragraph of your post, at least once in the body text of your posts, in a subheading? Now, if you're a WordPress user, you can use the Yoast plugin. Yoast really helps with this. So you input what keyword you want to rank for, and it will tell you how often you've used it in a post. And it will also point out some places that you should be using it if you aren't. Number 4 is your opening paragraph. Take a look at that opening paragraph again. Does it tell people what to expect if they read on? Your opening paragraph is one of the most important parts of your post. If you've managed to get people to click the link to go to your post, the opening paragraph will reassure them that they've arrived in the right place. So take some time to craft that. Does it read well? Does it draw people in? Will it make people want to keep reading? Number 4 is your post content, and I've got a lot of content under this. Firstly, did you let your blog tail off, or have you included a strong conclusion? Now, I've been a devil for this in the past. I just kind of go, well, that's it. That's the end of my post, and leave it. Do not do this. Do not do this. You need to wrap it up somehow. So you could put a summary of the post at the end so people can see the key things that you talked about. You could have a list of takeaways, things that you want people to action as a result. Or you can make it a traditional conclusion. What conclusions can you and your readers draw from what you've written in the post? Have you included something that might provoke discussion? Blog post comments are gold dust. They are so hard to get. But if you want them, one thing you can do to try and get more is to ask at the end of your post for feedback. Think of a question that relates to what you've put. Ask for opinions. And I'm often surprised at the questions that I put that do get responses compared to the ones that I always thought would get loads of responses and don't. But make a habit of putting something in, well, if not every post, most of your posts. You're listening to Blogcentric from Spiderworking. Have you included internal links to other relevant content on your site? This is a really good way to keep people reading. I know I used to do this with Social Media Examiner all the time. I'd just follow link upon link upon link and read article upon article upon article. It was a bit like binging on a box set. So make sure you're including related links within your content. Read more about this. For example, in this particular podcast, in the show notes, you're going to find loads of links back to other episodes that relate to the topics we're talking about. It's also thought to be good for your search engine optimization. So it's good on 2 points. Have a look at your post. Is there a link to another page on your site? Is it relevant? If you don't have one at all, is there an opportunity to add one? Have you included outbound links to relevant content? So if you research your posts, are there any articles that you can direct visitors to for further reading? Linking out makes you look generous. It helps you give your readers a fuller picture of the topics that you cover. Number 6 is images. Did you name your images to include your keyword where possible before you uploaded them onto your WordPress site? If not, you have to do that. You can't rely on renaming them when they're there. Naming your images properly, and actually when you name them, make sure you don't leave any spaces. Separate them with a dash. So if you've got multiple words like blog post checklist, blog dash post dash checklist, because this is how search engines will be able to read your image name. So just make sure you do that before you upload. Have you included at least 2 images? So you need one that's going to look good when you share it on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Google+, which is a nice little landscape photo. I use one 1,200 pixels by 628 pixels for this. I actually used the Canva template for a Facebook ad for that one. And then you need one that's going to work on Pinterest, because Pinterest, unlike every other social network, likes portrait pictures. So again, I use the Pinterest template on Canva for that, which is 735 pixels by 1102. Make sure you've included both image sizes. If you notice on my blog, I tend to include the Pinterest one at the bottom, and I make it quite small. I scale it down so it's not kind of taking over the whole blog post, but it also means there's a good image there for people to share. Have you included captions on your image? This is the text that's going to show below your images, and it's an opportunity to tell people a little bit more about the photo that you're sharing. And it's a little bit extra text, so you have the opportunity to cram in a keyword or a related keyword. It doesn't have to be your main keyword here. Have you included alt text when you uploaded your images? So when you upload, you have the opportunity to add this alt text. And this, for some browsers, it will display if the image doesn't load, but it's also readable by search engines. And the alt text should describe what's in the image. That's what its goal is to do. So make sure you've included that. If you want to know more about images, I've already done 2 podcasts on the topic. Number 13, episode 13, and episode 48 took you through enhancing your blog posts with images. So go have a listen to those. You'll find the links to those in the show notes. And number 7 is sharing. You have written your post. You've checked your checklist right up to this point. It's ready to go. You can hit publish, but the next stage is sharing. Now, the first thing to check is that your sharing buttons are working. Is it easy for people to see the sharing buttons when they arrive on your post? Is it easy for them to see them and click them and share? Actually go and check them yourself, because I'm actually surprised how often I'll land on somebody's blog. I love the post. I want to share it on Twitter. I don't know their Twitter handle, but that's okay because they've got a Twitter share button. And then I click the Twitter share button and it still doesn't include their Twitter name. So that's the first thing to do. Click your Twitter sharing button. Is it set up so that it will include your @name, your Twitter name when it's shared? And this is useful because you want to be able to see who's sharing your content. Most of the plugins you use will have the option to add that. If you don't have it, go set it up. And check the other buttons too. Do they actually work properly? Are they sharing the right article? Is your plugin or your sharing buttons configured correctly? It's important. I use SumoMe or SumoMe. I never know what it's supposed to be called. SumoMe on my blog currently. I find it's quite good. It gives me some statistics on the number of shares, but I'm also looking at a paid plugin called Social Warfare that has so many more bells and whistles than SumoMe. So I may be switching to that, but I'd say both of those are good options to go for. For sharing to social networks, I use CoSchedule because I can set that up before I publish the post, or when I publish the post, I can set up my sharing in advance. And that means I don't need to think about it again. I can spend 2 to 3 minutes setting up that sharing and bang, it's going out to all those social networks when I want it to. So have a look at CoSchedule. It's a website and it's a plugin for WordPress as well. And I also use Agora Pulse for setting up some additional sharing when I need to as well. I think it's a really good idea to put a sharing schedule in place. So I have one. I'm going to include a link in the show notes to a blog post that I wrote on it. You can see it's quite intense, but definitely worth it because it drives all that traffic into my site. At the very least, make sure you're sharing each post to Twitter, and not just one to Twitter. You can share multiple times to Twitter as long as you're doing other things there as well. So I tend to share it once a day to Twitter for the first week after publishing, and then I set it up to share in a month, and then it goes back into my rolling schedule, so it gets shared out again frequently. You've got to remember, you may just have written the blog post, but you want that to last as long as possible. So keep sharing it over a period of time. Maybe you want to go for once a month, maybe once a quarter. On Facebook, I share it to my Facebook business page, and then I share it from there into any relevant groups. So I share the post that I've posted on my Facebook page to any relevant groups that allow you. Make sure that they allow you to post your content in there. I also share it to my own Facebook group, and then I share it to a selected audience on my profile as well. And this means that I get just a little bit extra organic reach from my Facebook page. For LinkedIn, you need to share it to your personal profile. And if you have a company page, make sure you're sharing it there. And you may also want to investigate groups on LinkedIn and share your content to those specific groups too. Make sure, again, that they allow you to share links before you just go in there and post it, because you will get in trouble. You could even get banned from the groups. And then there's Pinterest. I think it's worth creating the rich article pins on Pinterest. I'm going to leave a link to how you do that. And what that does is it adds a bit of branding at the bottom of the pin. It makes it clear that it's an article to go on and read. And also, I would try and make sure that your Pinterest image has some sort of text overlay so that people, again, they know it's something they're going to read, so they're more likely to click. And of course, you need to share it too. So make sure you're sharing that to Pinterest. You could share it to just one board, or you could share it to a series of boards over a period of time just to get maximum reach on it. And then there's Google+. I know what you're thinking. Does anyone use Google+ anymore? Well, I actually still get quite a bit of valuable traffic from Google+. And I find some of my Google Plus posts themselves, so when I've shared my posts on Google+, rank on Google, even when the actual original article isn't yet. So I think it's well worth it. When you do share on Google+, try and get your keyword into the description for when you're sharing it. That'll help you rank. Now that you've published and shared, don't let your post die off. Have a plan for the future sharing of your articles. Like I said, maybe you decide to share it once a month, once a quarter, or like me, maybe you have a big long list of blog posts that you share once a week over a large period of time. But have some sort of plan. Don't let it die off. Think of all that effort you put into it. You want it to last longer than the first week after publishing. And make sure you have alerts set up for when people comment, so that you can always go back and respond to those comments, because comments are so important. Like I said, they're like gold dust. Make sure you're at least acknowledging and rewarding someone with your own comment in return.
You're listening to Blogcentric from Spiderworking.
This week's blogging challenge is easy this week. It's very easy. I've talked you through what you need to do before you hit that publish button. So go and download the free checklist. It's printable. It's pretty and it's printable. You can put it on your wall. You can put it on your desk, and you can actually physically check them off with a pen once they're done. So go do that. Go implement it. It'll save you time. You'll find there are less occasions of you clicking that button to publish and then instantly having to go back and fix something that you forgot. Well, that's all for me for this week. Have a fabulous Christmas. I do have podcasts lined up over the next few weeks, and I've got some exciting interviews for you as well. So there will be podcasts. Keep your eye on iTunes or wherever else you listen. But don't forget, before you go, leave me a review on iTunes. I would so love it. It could be your Christmas present to me. You can leave it on iTunes. You can leave it on Stitcher. Of course, you can comment on the show notes. Somebody lovely left me a lovely comment last week. I don't know who, because iTunes tells me it was O2 app, and I'm not sure even what that is. But you know what? It still made my day to read that comment and know there are people listening, enjoying and implementing stuff. So please go leave me a comment. If you do, you never know what good things might happen to you in return. And that's all from me for this week. Until next time, happy blogging.
Blogcentric from Spiderworking is sponsored by We Teach Social, social media e-learning courses for small business. Find out more at weteachsocial.com.